Hello everybody, I'm back with another simple drawing that I'm going to do. This time it's going to be very simple and very clean, just to show my friend how I do this and what my progress is in general. So I go ahead and make some references for myself. You can look them up online, they're everywhere on the internet, but at this point I feel like I can do this myself, so I quickly draw a head, some hair. Note that they're both in different layers, so different kinds of hairstyles are different kind of layers, so you can click the little eyeball there so you can see the layer or unsee the layer, so you can check them with each other and see what hairstyle looks best if you draw different hairstyles on different layers. This time I decided to go with bangs, and you can see me in the video just going on and on about like long hair the whole time, and eventually I'll end up in braids because I thought that's the simplest, and I think, yeah, plain long hair is just too simple to, you can see it very frequently. You can change the opacity of the layer, the sketch layer below, and add a new layer that you can call whatever you want. Usually I go with face or eyes or lines, line layer. So you do that and you go in with just a plain black color for this time. And the G pen I used, you can also use a mapping pen so you can get very crisp lines for your line drawing, and it just looks very clean and neat. Don't worry if you're going over a line a couple of times or if you need to undo, because I undo lines so often. I'm abusing the undo button most of the time. Don't be afraid to do that. That's the beauty of digital. You can just do it so many times, and it's just gonna look good in the end, hopefully. At this point, I was pretty satisfied with the face, so I already did that. But if you want to go in later and change the sketch below, like to another hairstyle or just add something, you can always do that, so just keep it right there on your right. You can also use the select tool to move the nose or the mouth upwards or a little bit to the side if it doesn't look good. To check if the proportions are right, you can just flip the canvas horizontally or flip it upwards and downwards, vertical, sorry, flip it vertically. So you can check if the proportions are right, and if it looks off, you can always edit it. At this point, I was going with bangs because I like bangs and they're quite easy for covering up a forehead. I don't like drawing foreheads or contouring of the forehead is very hard for me. So I just cover that up with bangs. I also thought it looked a little bit off, so I dragged it a little bit more to the right. In this case, the face, the contour of the face and the neck are on a different layer. So like the neck and the chest is one layer, and then the face and the contour of her face, that's another layer, and then on top you draw the hair layer. I'm still sketching a bit, figuring out what to do. That's on the first couple of layers we did. I added in a mask because I thought that would look good, but I ended up not going with a mask because I felt that was a little bit too complicated maybe for this simple tutorial. And she looked a little bit too much like a superhero. I didn't want to do that. I thought she was just an elf. So yeah, I just went with braids at this point. You can use as many layers as your heart wants. Like for every little detail, you can make a new layer. At this point, I feel like I don't need that many layers because this drawing is pretty simple for me. But I guess that also comes with experience. So don't be ashamed if you have like 50 layers, because I used to have so many. I also decided to draw the ears on the face layer because I don't want them to get mixed in with the lines of the hair. That makes sense. Obviously, if you're gonna color it later, it's gonna be way easier than if you have it on the hairline layer. So just combine the same kind of colors. If you're gonna do skin color and like hair color, do them on different layers. The lines, I recommend to do them on different layers. Obviously the color as well, but that's a different story. I went in with the same G-pen at this point to make it look like her hair is pulling back, because she has it in pigtails, or sorry, braids in this point. So it kind of looks like she has it tight around her scalp. This takes a lot of practice to know, like, for example, how clothes work. That's very difficult as well. And how hair falls. You just have to, you know, look up references and just look at other one's pictures. Try to draw those pictures that other people made. So eventually you can do them from the top of your head, just like I did with my first sketch in this drawing. I keep going back to maybe the little bun and like the long hair behind, but it didn't feel right. So no, I didn't go through with it. Obviously you can change the line size if you think this line is too thick. It depends on what kind of drawing you're gonna do, obviously. My sketch is done with a pencil, by the way, because it's light and easy. I think it's called Haruse 2 something. You can download them all in the material section on the Clip Studio Paint site, so that's cool because they're free and you have lots of cool effects that you can use in your drawing. I certainly really like the page. So yeah, at this point I started to choose a color. I start with a very dark color for the hair, and then you can create depth as you go lighter with the colors. I think maybe I used 5 colors for this typical drawing, but the more you use, obviously, the more diesel you're gonna have to put in, and the more layers you're gonna have to have, and the more work it's gonna cost. So I would recommend to keep it simple for the first time. I colored everything with just the fill tool, and you can set the filling tool so it closes the gaps if you have any in your line drawing, which is amazing. And then I went in and just the white spots, I filled them in with the same color. Also, this is on a completely different layer than your line layers because it's the color and it has to be underneath your line layer, I recommend. I say that you have to do it, but obviously you can do whatever you want, but this is what I do. And then you go in with a watercolor brush. This one is literally called watercolor brush because I feel like it gives a good kind of rough effect of what hair texture looks like. And you just go in and you don't have to cover everything, just the mid-tones, like the lighter tones of the hair. You can leave the dark as it is because obviously there's no light that reaches those parts, and so it stays dark. I used maybe 4 or 5 clipped layers, and you can see on the right the clipped layer is the one with the red stripe next to it. And the clipped layer means you will stay within the part that you have colored below. So if you like draw a dot and you clip a layer below the new layer on top of it, that means if you color that, you cannot go outside of that dot. So that's super handy. So yeah, after the watercolor brush, I added another clip layer on the same 3 layers, and I went in with a G-pen, a thick G-pen, so you don't have to cover everything. Just color it so you can still see the layers below, like the effects you've made, but just go in with a little bit more detail. It looks a little bit more like hair strands at this point. Just go a little bit lighter, like choose a lighter tones every time you go in with a different color. That's how you create effect, like depth. And each time you move up a color, or if you go lighter, you don't have to cover as much as you did. And at some point, you're just gonna softly lighten it a bit where the light's coming from, but that's very subtle. but we'll get to that later. First, you gotta cover the hair in this pen tool, and it's basically just feeling and practice on where to put like the light of the hair. I don't really have much tips on that, just think about where the light's gonna come from. I'm not very good at that, but you can always practice. If the light's coming from the left in this case, I was trying to achieve that result, sorry. Then you can leave more light to the left and less light to the right, so it kind of looks like it's more illuminated on the left. Lastly, almost lastly, you go in with a very same pen, very thin, with a almost white greenish color in this case, and you're just gonna define some lighter strands. You don't have to cover a whole lot, and you can also go out of the previous layer, so you can cover the dark bits a bit. Don't do that too much, because you'll lose the whole effect of like the depth in the hair. But you can do it a little bit, like place a stubborn strand of hair that goes the other way, or you know, that it looks a bit more realistic, more detail in it. So you can go ahead and do that. You don't have to do that everywhere, but in this drawing I am going to do that because I feel like it looks better. Yeah, just go in with a thinner tool, and it takes a lot of practice, but it's not really that hard if you get the hang of it. Just try this a couple of times. I'm sure you'll make it at some point. You'll make it, the same kind of drawings. It took me a lot to learn this. I have learned from many artists before to how to draw this, and lots of tutorials, so I thought I would make a very clear tutorial in this case. And I really hope that it helped you. We're almost at the end here. I'm just gonna softly go in with the spray paint, almost white color, to really indicate that the light is coming from the left. Lastly, you can also clip a layer below at the line layer that you made for the hair, and just go in with a color that's close to your hair color, like a very dark blue maybe, so it looks a bit softer, but it really depends on what style you're going for. In this case, I did it because I thought it looked more soft and more pretty. So yeah, you can do that. I hope that this has been helpful. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!